What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Screening Room podcast where we talk all things movie and TV. I am your host, Evan, and I am once again, as always, joined by my co host, Mike.
Hey everyone, how you doing today?
Today, this was actually Mike's idea. As you can tell if you're watching this the day of release or if you're looking at the air date, it is Friday the 13th. And
Ooh,
and Mike thought it would be a good idea to talk about the original movie. So we both watched it relatively recently, and yeah, we're just gonna talk all things about it. We're gonna talk about some trivia later on. Obviously, we're gonna give it a review at the end, and yeah, it's just gonna be a shorter one today. I say that right now. We'll see what happens. You guys have the benefit of knowing ahead of time, but yeah, do you have anything you want to say before we kick things off?
honestly, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with the film. While it might not be the best slasher film around, it's certainly quite charming for when it was made.
Yeah, when was it made? Early, you said 1980, right?
Yep, 1980, right after Halloween.
So I we were talking about this last night for everyone at home. Didn't you say that like I forget the director off rip, but didn't you say that they were like inspired by Halloween and like that's kind of like what drove this like they kind of fast tracked this movie?
Yeah, so the director Sean Cunningham and screenwriter Victor Miller, they've both admitted that the film initially started out as like a cheap Halloween ripoff. They both ended up seeing the original Halloween movie in theaters and got the idea of Friday the 13th right after they left the theater to make a movie similar to that, just to try to catch on to the horror craze.
Yeah, I think because at the time, really, Halloween was my horror film knowledge is not the best. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time, Halloween was really like the big like only slasher movie, right?
At the time, we did have more classical horror, like think your Alfred Hitchcock,
Right, like
like Psycho,
Psycho.
for example.
Yeah,
But
of
this
course.
really, yeah. But overall, I'd say that Halloween is the one that really pioneered the serial killer slasher genre. In like it projected it into the mainstream for the mass audience. So this
Right.
was definitely the template.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I guess that's a good place to start. I mean, it's very, I mean, it's a little, I don't know, it's a little for lack of a better word, like harsh, I guess, to criticize it for following stereotypes in the slasher genre. But I feel like I don't know, like it definitely follows a similar formula to the original Halloween, just this time it's set at a lake, you know what I mean? So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's a bunch of teenagers running around. They have one like who's the name of the like the Jason's mom in this one, like the actress?
Oh yes, Betsy Palmer. She was the main slasher of the film, Pamela Voorhees.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's the same sort of trope, you know, it's a bunch of teenagers just dicking around on Camp Crystal Lake, I believe it's called, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Um you know, they're just, you know, they're doing their thing. Again, it's I guess technically the late 70s when they were filming this. So, you know, and then
No, set in the present day. Remember,
oh, so it was
very
1980.
opening. Yep. Well, yeah, 1980.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of formulaic in that way. Personally, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really a big horror guy, but you do have to respect like the OG pioneers of the slasher genre. Again, I get that it's not the original slasher, but I feel like I don't know. It's still important in its own right. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And again, like we had mentioned earlier, with speaking of the titular slasher herself, I thought Betsy Palmer did a great job as Pamela Voorhees, considering this was only the first entry in the series. Ironically, she did admit she only did the first movie at first, just so that way she could go buy a new car. But later on down, she did warm up to the film. and embrace the fact that she was in the Friday the 13th series. So I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, you got to get that bag. I mean, I respect the hustle. I didn't realize that.
Absolutely.
That's really funny.
Yeah, ended up starting one of the most iconic horror slashers of all time.
It is kind of funny that, though. I think that's a good way to segue into the fact that this is one of, you said, two movies in the series that does not actually have Jason as the killer.
That is correct. It is only this one and then Friday the 13th Part 5 where Jason is not the killer. So I thought that was a fun addition too. And just to see what it was like before Jason got the hockey mask. And I realized the irony in our review discussion poster with it being front and center right next to the original poster.
Yeah, yeah. That was not Mike's fault. I'm the one who did the graphic design on that one, but I did it kind of intentionally because I figured it'd be a fun way to transition to bring up that specific topic. Because I do think it's kind of ironic that one of the most famous slasher series of all time and one of the most famous slashers, Jason, wasn't even in the first installment of said famous slasher series. I just think that's kind of ironic. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that he's technically in the end. Like, did we ever get like a confirmation on whether that like scene where he obviously we're gonna have spoilers in this just for everyone watching. But that
Yeah.
scene at the end when he like kind of jumps out of and like gets I forget the girl's name, but the girl in the boat like drags her
Yeah,
under
yeah.
like.
I also forgot her name, and that is one of my many critiques of the film is the lack of interesting. But it is revealed that that part is a dream sequence. But she, but it is revealed though that Jason did end up surviving. It was just in the woods all those years.
Oh, okay. Is that like something that they talk about in the second movie, or was that revealed in the
Yeah,
first one?
yeah. They addressed it in the second movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen bits and pieces of the second one. And spoiler alert, you said there are how many Friday the 13th this year? Like calendar dates?
Um, three this year.
Yeah, so we
So one in March and one in November.
okay. Yeah, so what we're gonna try to do is do one of these types of like reviews for Friday the 13th each Friday the 13th this year. And I think we agreed on doing part two, maybe, and then maybe like part four. Obviously, like I don't know, we'll figure that out. Because it also depends on like what's
Yeah.
streaming where. But I just think, and again, I can't take any credit for this idea. This was all Mike, but I did think that was a very fitting idea to do. So I no, my hats off to you.
Thank you.
Um, let's see. Did you have any other thoughts about like I don't know any of the production behind this film?
Actually, yeah, I was really impressed with the makeup effects and some of the creative kills done in the movie. Tom Salvini did the makeup effects for this one. He did it in the first one and then in the fourth one. I thought it was a great overall considering the budget, which was just over $500,000 at the time. So considering the low budget, I thought it was great for all the visual effects in the film. And some of the creative kills that I noticed in the film that really stood out to me was Kevin Bacon's death with the arrow in the neck. That was really grueling to see. I was actually surprised how they did the effect.
How did they do it?
So what they did was it was like a dummy, and they poked through like the jugular area of the dummy with the arrow to get the
Oh,
effect.
oh, that's interesting.
And yeah, and another thing that surprised me too was Alice, who was the girl hitchhiking at the very beginning. I was surprised that she died so early on. I expected her to at least make it to camp. So that kind of already set the stage that there were actual stakes in this movie.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're right. I never really thought about that. I never thought about it that way, but it does kind of. It almost reminds me of. It's a weird comparison, but it almost reminds me of Predator in a way, where like you don't know who's gonna die, but it's also different because Predator is like all. At least that original one is all like A-list celebrity actors, whereas this, it's all just like nobody teenagers, but it's the same principle where anyone, like nobody's safe.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was one those were the things that really stood out to me. And then that soundtrack, that iconic soundtrack. It's present in the first movie and it's easily my favorite horror movie soundtrack you can find nowadays. It's so
Which,
simple but it's so chilling at the same time.
yeah, no, I hear you. We will not be playing it because I'm not trying to get this show copyrighted, but obviously check it out if for some reason you have no idea what we're talking about. Where would you rank it actually among like horror soundtracks? Like,
Horror soundtracks for me, I'd honestly I think I'd have to put it in my top 3. It's that Halloween and then I'm a sucker for the Predator soundtrack. I know that might be sci-fi, that might be action, but I consider it horror.
yeah, I mean, for me, again, I don't know where I'd specifically rank it, but I think you also have to throw Jaws in the mix there.
Oh, absolutely. That's
That
number 4 for me.
yeah, I mean, getting a little off topic, but yeah, I mean that one. It's crazy what you can do with just like literally two piano notes. But no, yeah,
Exactly.
the Friday the 13th one is definitely like good in its own right, I think. Yeah, no, I'm trying to think. Did you have any other like interesting factoids that you wanted to bring up? I know you did your
Yeah,
research.
actually, yeah, I was also impressed that this is one of the films that established the final girl trope in all the horror movies. And in case for anyone who doesn't know what that is, the final girl trope, it's the trope that there's always at least one character left at the end of the horror movie that finally gets to battle on the main villain, who usually at this point in time, it's usually like a teenage girl, like in Halloween, or in the case of this movie, who usually fights them. But it could also be a guy. It could also be like anyone, like the last survivor of the film. That's what really propped up the final girl trope.
So
And
like
I was
JB Lee
surprised.
Curtis and Halloween kind of.
Exactly. That was the first example of the final girl trope, and this film also built upon that.
No, that yeah, no, that's you're right. I mean, again, the problem is I just flat out haven't seen enough of these movies to really compare. You're definitely more educated on this front than I am, but no, I think you're right. And I think it's honestly like it's an early example of like strong female characters in Hollywood movies because around this time you had a lot of them starting to show up. You had like Ripley in the Alien movies, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. You had I forget the actress's
Sarah
name, but
Connor as well
oh, Sarah
in
Connor, of course.
Terminator.
You had
Yeah,
Sidney
the great
Prescott
Linda
in the Scream
Hamilton.
movies.
That's correct. Yeah,
I'm trying to think. I mean, just a lot of them
there's so
started
many
popping up
though. There's
around
so
this
many.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
and
this is one of the first ones to ever do it.
yeah, no, you're right. And because, I mean, before, I mean, I'm now we're getting off on a really weird tangent, but yeah, I mean, before, I mean, females were just kind of depicted as like the damsel in distress. So it's really refreshing to see them like actually take on like a leading, more like dominant role in these movies where they kind of like, take charge literally and figuratively. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
it's great to see female characters like in these movies have more agency and more importance to the plot overall,
right. Like they're not just like, you know,
like
overly
background
sexualized for
characters.
no reason. Yeah.
Exactly. Although that can be the case, especially in these early slasher movies.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not totally void of that, but yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where like they're working they're working towards being, more politically correct. Um, so I at least give them props for having like again, like you mentioned, it's not perfect in that regard by any far from perfect, but you know, it's baby steps. For the time, it was definitely a big deal having like a strong female lead actually take on the villain, who also, by the way, was a female. Um,
exactly. That was another refreshing thing to see too, just because it's something I didn't expect. I
No.
didn't expect it to be Jason's mom in the first one. I didn't know that going. So I thought that was like a fun thing to find out over the course of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the movie twice now. I watched it once, probably late middle school, maybe early high school. I watched it and I just assumed that it was going to be Jason. And I was so confused. I was like, well, where's the dude in the hockey mask like showing up? And then it's revealed to be his mom. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But like, it was like a cool
Yeah,
twist, I guess, in that way. Um,
it was.
so yeah, and I mean, she's like you mentioned earlier. I mean, she's definitely like the kind of star power of this movie. That's definitely where like most of that, what did you say, like 500K budget went. But I think it paid
Oh,
off.
absolutely. A good chunk of it went through. Oh, absolutely. And that was a critique I did have of the film. It just had a lack of compelling characters, like, and not exactly memorable characters too, for the most part. Like, I was surprised to find out Kevin Bacon was in this film, but it was to the point where I just called his character Kevin Bacon. You know, so that's one thing I think they could have improved on was more unique characters.
Right, like maybe develop them more. And I mean, again, I get that. I think the movie's relatively short too, right? It's like under 2 hours. So I get that there are like time
Yeah,
restraints and like at the end of the day, they're just trying to make a slasher movie. And I'm guessing was the director, did he have like a lot under his belt before this movie? Do you know?
no, not off the top of my head, but he did pick up those actors specifically because, and I quote, they were the type of actors that you could find in a Pepsi commercial. He wanted them to be these like diamond in the rough actors and actresses to try to flesh out the movie even more.
No, and I mean to their credit, like I mean obviously none of like the teenagers had much experience, but I think they still did a good job. I mean, listen, I'm a film student. I've worked on plenty of film sets with teenagers, and the people in this movie were definitely better than stuff I've seen. So, um, no, I think they did a good job. Considering, I mean, I'm sure some of them had some experience under their belt, but like, I'm just saying they were like relatively unknown. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, I still give Victor Miller so much credit for writing the script because at the time, this was still a relatively new genre that they were exploring. So, what might seem today is kind of like hokey and like more like focused in on like trope specific things like I can complain about. It wasn't the case back then. So, you got to look at it like that, you know?
No, I totally agree. It's a little off topic, but I do actually have a question for you. I know within the Halloween fan community, there's a lot of discussion about. I'm a big movie like AV enthusiast. I care a lot about like 4K Blu-ray and that stuff. But I hear that a lot of people like when it comes to like the original Halloween movie prefer watching it almost in like a more gritty like VHS quality rather than like a crisp 4K Blu-ray. And I wonder like if you think that you could see any argument to that applying to this movie, like where you would almost rather watch it on like a dingy old like CRT TV on like a VHS, or would you rather watch it like in a pristine like 4K Blu-ray? Like, do you think one or the other would add or subtract to the like viewing experience, I guess?
Honestly, I don't think it would add or subtract anything. Although I do definitely prefer seeing it in the as the originally intended version released by the filmmakers, because especially when it's not as like crystal clear or not in 4K, I should say. It feels more genuine and it lets you feel the time period it was in. And plus, with it being filmed that way, it allows you to see it in a more like I don't want to say realistic, but in like a more simplified way. So that way you can still focus on all the characters and not get taken aback by the detail. And you can really focus on the story.
No, yeah, I get that. I mean, a lot of it to me comes down to like, I mean, obviously preserving what was originally there. I don't like it when they go back and, you know, I'm not going to name any names, but when they go back and redo, add in CGI to stuff again, not naming any movies specifically, but I don't like that. I think art, you should keep it the way it is, but at the same time, I think there is room to do 4K transfers, but like as long as you're not like digitally getting rid of all the grain, for example. I know that's like a big one amongst film enthusiasts. Like it's called DNR for those who don't know. It basically just scrubs the image of all of like the film grain. Um, I always say like if you're doing a 4K transfer of a movie, you should always leave the grain in because again, it's like what you said. That was what was there in 1980. So no, I get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just feel it adds to the charm of the movie. That's all.
No, yeah. And I mean, I think having a dirtier look, like just in terms of like maybe more film grain, actually kind of helps with this type of movie. It makes it, I don't know how to describe it. It makes it more like eerie, I guess. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it makes it seem, I don't want to say fantastical, but it makes it seem more, surreal. Like that. And with this, like I said before, with it being more of like a grainier look, it makes it feel like a lived in movie. That, not everything's crystal clear. And it helps people like imagine what's in the shadows. Like, for example, like as a horror movie fan, as someone who's into casual horror, I think it helps, you know, it makes the audience think and maybe a little bit more scared that way when they can't see every detail.
No, I think that's actually a really good point. Because film stock, especially like older, cheaper film stock, which they obviously undoubtedly would have used on this, considering the release date and the budget. Older film stock doesn't typically capture the color black as well. That's why a lot of like older, cheaper movies, you lose a lot of detail in darker lit scenes. So I feel like that almost works to the benefit of this movie because, like you said, it leaves more it leaves more to the imagination. And what I was kind of while you were talking about that last point, it made something click in my head. It was almost like it almost makes the movie feel like almost a campfire story, like something you would like hear at like Boy Scouts or whatever, like while everyone's sitting around the
Or a summer
campfire.
camp.
Yeah, yeah, I guess
Exactly.
that's more fitting. Yeah, like a summer camp story, exactly.
Or
No,
like
it
a
gives it
summer.
more like
Yeah.
that, like kind of homey. I don't want to say cozy because that's definitely not the right word for this specific movie, but like I don't know, it gives it more of like a yeah, I guess like a campfire esque story.
Yeah. Makes it more eerie.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have any more, I guess, factoids or anything?
No, that was pretty much it on my end. Overall, I still thought, given the time period and, given the overall, script and some of these, like more like the tropes that we've mentioned, I still thought this was a great film overall, and I'm ready to give my final rating.
Yeah, no. So I agree. So in that case, let's transition to the review. So I think what we're gonna do is we're each gonna give our own personal review, kind of give like a brief explanation, and then we're gonna make like a condensed overall we're gonna average the two reviews together, and then give like a general screening room podcast review if that's all right with you.
That's cool with me. And before I'd like to add, I did mention the budget before, which was just over $500,000. The film ended up making about $59.8 million worldwide, which
Oh,
is just
wow.
incredible considering the budget.
Yeah, no,
Just wanted to put that in there for consideration.
yeah, talk about making your money back. I'm sure the studio was thrilled with that. That would explain why we got so many sequels.
They were so thrilled that they gave us at least 8 more movies.
So you know what? I'm curious what the budget for the second one was. Friday the 13th
13th
part
part two.
budget.
Tune into
Yeah,
our next Friday the 13th movie to find out.
$1.25 million. That's crazy.
Oh wow, that's quite a jump.
That's over double. Yeah, that's insane. Wow. But yeah, no, stay tuned for what did you say? It was the next one's in March?
Yeah, around March 13th.
Okay, yeah. So stay tuned and well, I've actually never seen that one in its entirety. I've seen like bits and pieces of it, so I'll have to like actually give it a watch sometime between now and then. But I'm low-key curious because you said Jason's like actually like does stuff in this one, right? In that one.
Yes, this one, Jason is the killer.
Okay. No. Oh yeah. So stay tuned next month and we'll talk more about that. But now let's get into the review for this one, the original. I'll go first just because I feel like you're gonna have more to say because you have more like horror background knowledge. So I'll let you kind of cap it off, and then we'll go into like our general screening room podcast review. So like I kind of mentioned earlier, I saw it once when I was like younger, like middle school, early high school age. And then I actually got to see it more recently. Towards the end of 2025, they re-released it in theaters on a Friday the 13th. I forget which month it was, but I did get the chance to see it in the theater, which was why I kind of mentioned AV quality earlier, because that was like the highest quality version of the movie that exists. But no, kind of like, I mean, I'm going to be kind of treading over grounds that we already talked about, but just to kind of sum it up pretty neatly, not necessarily my favorite genre, not a horror guy, not a slasher guy necessarily, but obviously it's important to not just the horror genre, sorry, but also just film history in general. Um, and yeah, it was made on like a lower budget. Obviously, there are plenty of holes in it, I guess, but you can't deny the historical significance of it. And there is still that like kind of campfire. Again, I don't want to use the word cozy, but cozy in like a sort of fucked up way, I guess, way of like it's a fun little like I feel like it's a fun one to throw on like with friends if you have, like on a late night, maybe get a campfire going, get a like outdoor projector. I think it did what it's trying to do. It's not trying to be the Godfather of horror. It's not trying to be the 2001 A Space Odyssey of horror. It's just trying to, I don't want to say ride the coattails of Halloween, but I mean, effectively, it was trying to capitalize on it. But it did also try to do it differently. It, centered it around Camp Crystal Lake. It did have like a different personal. The villain had like personal motives, which Michael Myers didn't necessarily have. So it was kind of refreshing in that aspect. So personally, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterbox, just because the historical significance, but also like it is genuinely like a, a decent movie. I'm definitely not as high on it as I feel like a lot of other people are, but I definitely do see where I see where the hype comes from. It's just not necessarily my cup of tea, but I do appreciate it for sure. But I'll hand the microphone over to you, Mike, because I'm sure you're gonna have some thoughts.
Thank you. So overall, yeah, I thought this was a charming movie. I actually rewatched the whole thing just a couple days ago for this review, and I can say I was, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised with the whole thing. Like I said, I did mention there were some things I thought they could work on, maybe making the characters a little bit more interesting, and then giving just some more agency. One thing I did mention this before. I did think it was kind of funny, it was revealed that the main killer of the film is just a woman in her late 50s. Just trying to like take down like 20-year-old guys. I thought that kind of took away a little bit out of the scary factor. But overall, I thought this was a great film, and like I said, Betsy Palmer did a fantastic job in the movie. Easily best performance there. But I overall I gave the film a 3.5. Like I said, it had some rough spots, but overall, this was a great film.
Well, I guess that makes making the screening room rating pretty easy. There's no need to average that out. So 3.5 out of 5 is our official consensus review then. Which I feel like
Yep,
is
three and a
pretty
half.
fair. Yeah. Um, like we said earlier, stay tuned next month, I guess. We will be talking about the sequel. Do you know if the sequel is like generally regarded higher than the original, or like what the consensus is?
Not off the top of my head. But no, you'll definitely find out next Friday the 13th, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could pull up the reviews now, but I don't want to. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. So we'll just we'll find out next month. But in the meantime, I do want to leave you guys with one little hint at what our next like sort of independent review is gonna be on the next episode. That'll play right now. And I will leave you all with that. Unless you have anything, do you have any last words you want to say before I end this one off, Mike?
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it, and can't wait to catch you on the next one.
Yeah, and once again, I want to thank Mike especially for coming up with this idea. I feel like it was really like I don't know. It's so obvious, but I just wouldn't have thought of it. So no, I'm really glad that you brought that to my attention. I think that'll be a fun one to kind of come back to every Friday the 13th. We can do a new one, and it gives me an excuse to finally go through these. So yeah, massive shout out to you for coming up with that idea.
It'll take us a while to get to the later ones, but we'll get to it in time.
Yeah, yeah, it'll take some time, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I think we're going to definitely try to commit to doing one every Friday the 13th at the very least. So yeah, just
Absolutely.
bear with us. With that all said, guys, thank you all for watching. This has been the Screening Room podcast. Again, we're available on YouTube and Spotify, possibly more platforms to come, but for now, just those two. All links are in the description. If you liked what you saw, definitely subscribe, follow if you're on Spotify, leave a like and subscribe. All goes a long way, helps us algorithmically more than you could possibly imagine. So we really do appreciate the support. With that all said, make sure to check in next week for the next episode. This has been the Screening Room Podcast. I'm your host, Evan, joined by my co host, Mike. Signing off. Thank you all for watching.